Wait for a few people to come in here before I actually get started. This is going to be short and sweet, I guess. Just a short, sweet little video. Because you know what? We like short, sweet videos, right? My glasses are all askew. Oh, I'm live. Now live on my channel. Live from the shop. That's me, stupid thing. Yeah, so anyway, this is just going to be short and sweet, quick. I'm working on the corn planter here. We're getting her ready for spring planting. I do have a lot of video of it. I just wanted to let everybody know that things have kind of went a little haywire here over the last few days, and it's taken a little bit longer. But I did get my parts ordered last night and this morning. Pretty much figured what this corn planter is. John Deere did not build a corn planter like this. Well, they built this corn planter, but they didn't build this corn planter. This corn planter, it is John Deere, made by John Deere, but it has these front wing fold gizmos right here. See this right here? Right there. So those front wing fold gizmos are from an aftermarket company. This was actually a rigid 12-row planter, and the idea with this thing was to take the planter and back it up onto a Donahue trailer. And then right here, I'm going to flip the camera around real quick. Right here, you would take these two bolts out, these guys right here, and this hitch would come out. A hitch assembly would come out. And these would swing. This hitch would split in half, and it's on a pivot right here. And they would swing over, pivot to this point, and then you would go down the road and then convert it back to, when you got to where you were going, you would convert it back to a into put the hitch back on, and then pull it off the Donahue trailer, which you would pull with your tractor, and then you would just go to work again. So someone got the brilliant idea, which is, I'm not being facetious here, I'm being truthful, brilliant idea to build a hinge set, cut this thing off, and then weld these two face plates on here so that these three units would fold forward. Now, I have no problem with them folding forward. My problem with them is the fact that they put bolts in here, and they didn't tighten the bolts tight enough, and they kind of got to working in there, and it made a bit of a mess. So what I'm going to do is pretty simple. I'm actually going to get I'm going to weld another piece of steel onto this thing, drill a new hole into it through the new pieces, and then I'm going to make them thicker and better and get machine bolts that have flanges on them. And then when you come to the field, you just throw two bolts in there, tighten them up, and you're good to go. Now, this corn planter, they adopted this design by John Deere later on, because I believe How Farms Work actually has had one of these corn planters. I think their new one is not this design. It's a little different. But what I'm having problems with, or was having problems with, was right here. So these pieces, these are from another planter. These are not from this particular planter, or even, it is from a 7000 conservation, but they are from a what they would call a front fold planter. They did have a folding 12-row corn planter, but it was the tongue would actually stretch out, and then these wings would, at the center, they would pivot forward, and you would have, I think these two row units here. Let's see. I believe these two row units stayed put, and the pivots were here, and your tongue was really, really long, and it would just, you would swing them forward. They would swing forward so that it wasn't really terribly wide to go down the road with. I liked the design. I've seen them, but I've never seen one quite like this. Now, that set of hinges is okay, but somebody decided to do some hammered dog shit thing here, right here, and there's a space. So when the corn planter is sitting there, it actually does screw up the pitch of these three row units here, and you can see how they are on an angle. for the pivot, but there was something that had happened to this part here at some point, this hitch or this pivot pin, and it's whether it's wear on the thing. Somebody had to actually split this to get it to loosen up, and then they welded it back together again. I thought it was really kind of ridiculous what they did there, but they did it, and it is what it is. So I have to deal with this now. Mind you, I don't have a lot of money in this corn planter. I actually have more money in this corn planter in the parts that I just purchased than I do in the whole corn planter. I will not be using the liquid row fertilizer. I don't believe I will anyway. If I do, it's going to be controlled differently. They have a John Blue system on there. But again, here's this guy, this space here, and I can throw a bolt in there and tighten it up. But it's hammered, you know. It is hammered. So I may come up with a. Oh wait, you guys are looking at me. It's right here. You can see how it was loose and it was not tightened up properly, and they allowed it to work. So that's not going to work for me. So if I actually open this, when I get done with this thing, putting all the new parts on, and there's a lot of parts that are going on, I'm going to swing it open. I'm going to bore these two holes out to the next size bigger. I'm going to go with a 3/4 inch bolt, and then I'm going to add a piece of steel to the outside of it, I think. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how I'm going to alleviate the problem, but that's what we're looking at. Robert, yeah. So people are asking me about my father. Well, my dad was in the hospital. My mom and my aunt just went to go get him. He spent the night. They thought he had a mini stroke, but it turns out that he did not have a mini stroke. The fact of the matter is, they really don't know what the hell is wrong with him. But they did an MRI. Everything looks good, but his vision is really blurry, and it's not good. He can't drive tractors, can't drive cars, can't do anything. So until his vision clears up. Now, what they're thinking, because Joseph came home with a really bad sinus infection and a headache, just like Dad's, is, yeah, that's great. There's no stroke. But anyways, what they're thinking is he's got a sinus infection in there. So or an infection someplace that they don't know about. So they've got him on Augmentin. So he's doing good. Yeah, so he's doing all right. I'm going to go visit him in a little bit here. I just wanted to talk about this corn planter. If you guys are not, it would be cheaper to buy a NT. Now, look, when I'm done with this thing, the fact of the matter is, I'm only planting between 200 and 300 acres. I don't think I'm going to go any higher than that. I just don't have the time to do it, for one thing. But I've got $3,200 in the corn planter, and I've got $5,000 in parts. So I got $8,200 in parts and the whole thing. Okay, that's not bad for a 12-row corn planter, and it'll be perfect when I'm done. I mean, perfect when I'm done. I'll be able to just go to the field, unfold it, throw those bolts into it, plant the field, and go home and be done with it. I don't have a monitor, and I'm going to tell you guys something that's really probably going to spur some criticism. I've never planted with a monitor. I don't feel the need to plant with a monitor. As long as my finger pickups are good, and as long as everything here is good, you go down and back a few times, you plant 20 acres. I mean, how long is it going to take me to plant 20 acres with a 12-row corn planter? Not very long. So I'm not going to bother with the monitor. They want a lot of money for a monitor to hook up. This is a Dickie John deal. So that monitor has a bunch of rows, and it just doesn't, to me, it's not worth my time. Now, if I do at some point boost up to 1,000 acres of corn, which I'm not going to do, no, I'm not selling the 4320. If I boost up to like 1,000 acres of corn, maybe I'll deal with a monitor at that point. But again, this is an old reliable frame. It's an old reliable style. You can buy parts from Kinsey. You can buy parts from John Deere. You can buy parts from Abilene. I think Abilene. Shoops. No, what was the other one? There's anywhere you can get parts for this thing anywhere, and they're all interchangeable. So it's great. I don't need a Kinsey. I got a John Deere, guys. Come on, get smart here. This thing is green. It's not blue. And they're pretty much the same for that. I'm going to get a 6-row head because this is a 12-row combine. So yes, Kinsey makes John Deere. No, Kinsey does not make John Deere. Kinsey and John Deere make their own corn planters. Kinsey actually, I believe, took the John Deere design and improved a lot of bits of it, but for the most part, they're very identical, very similar. The 3000, 4000 Kinseys are pretty much, pretty much the same. There are differences, but with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now because it gets up to over 10 minutes, and that's, I start losing people there. So tomorrow, look for the corn planter video, the first real corn planter video, and I explain a lot more detail as to what I'm doing. Like I said, I've had a lot of parts bought, $5,000, right around $5,000 worth of parts, maybe a little bit more. And I think I've got everything that I need. I dug out parts that I had for the other corn planters. That's why I stuck with the 7,000. So if I end up getting into trouble, with the corn planter, I can always go rob parts off of the 4-row wide that I have. So yeah, I am excited. I'm doing corn. Yeah, thank you. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.